Welcome back, baseball family. This week we're going to talk about sticky stuff and steroids, persistent tanking, and the Giants' Mount Rushmore right now. 9+ Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together. Welcome back, baseball family, to another episode of the Baseball Together podcast. I'm Brig, and I got Brad here with me.
Say hi, I'm here. Hi,
yeah, he's here.
How's it going?
We're very excited. We need this in our life this week. The day rapidly approaches that we get no longer fake baseball, but for real baseball, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah,
Brad, let me ask you this. Other than attending spring training games, how much attentions do you pay to spring training games?
I check the box score for the Mariners games every day.
Yeah,
because you don't get to watch spring. You don't get to watch spring training games every day on TV.
Right.
And so once the game's over, I go check the box score, see how guys did, and I take everything with a grain of salt because it's March, right?
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but
total madness.
And there was a long layoff, but at the same time though, like I like to see how guys are doing, so I pay attention. Yeah. We did go to a game on Friday night though, and it was fantastic.
Very cool. See, I pay almost no attention to spring training. I watch pitchers and I watch for injuries. That's it. Unless a guy's injured, I don't care. Honestly, I want to see how pitching is evolving, and I want to wait till opening day. Everything else, that's how
and I get that because like Julio Rodriguez had 3 backwards Ks Friday night, the game we were at. I was first off very disappointed because he's the guy I was paying to see, right?
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, I was like, I don't really care because
ain't no thing, right?
It's spring, so
yeah.
It's all good. It's fine. But.
So let's jump into some current events. We have sticky stuff and we have steroids. And I feel like those two were like divinely inspired, matched in heaven. Like sticky stuff and steroids. First of all, the alliterative I love entirely. But second of all, they just need to be together. They need to be discussed together. I feel like we have Jekyll and Hyde. It's wonderful. So the baseball officials will be cracking down on both from now on. Not that they haven't been, just that this season they want to make sure that they're going to crack down on everything more intensely. There was an uptick in spin rate at the end of last season that they were really worried about, and so they're really harping down on the sticky stuff. Let's jump into that really quick. They're going to check hands as well as equipment. They implemented checking hands late last season as well to deal with this increased spin rate thing. So that's not necessarily new, but it's getting, I think, new attention. But I thought this was the interesting part. As of this season, they're going to check starters must be checked more than one time. At least 2 times you have to check the starter. But there is no cap on that. They could check the starter every time he enters the game, every time he comes off the mound. They could check the starter. So I thought that was really interesting. You have to check all relievers at least one time during their tenure in that game, and they can also check all position players as well in a given time.
The position players, I think, is new, and that's actually a really good idea because, I mean, we saw, first off, a couple of years ago, that play where Yadi Molina had the ball stick to his chest protector.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a whole lot of pine tar, first off.
Yeah,
like,
buddy.
That is super obvious, right? So, you know what he's doing with it. So,
for sure.
Yeah, like, clean that up, and then, but there were certain guys like Jay Buhner had a spot on his hip where there was always pine tar. There's some other guys who have it, like Justin Turner has it on his shoulder
every time.
The one where the bat doesn't rest on.
Correct.
So there's stuff like that.
Very strange.
Yeah, it is very strange. But I think it's smart because they specifically saw spin rates drop after they cracked down on at the beginning of the year. And then to see it coming back up again, it's like guys figured out the how to get around the inspections.
That's right. So, and the reason why the hands are so important, even though they were included last season, is because in a 25 March memo Major League Baseball issued to all teams, it included this quote, if an umpire observes a pitcher attempt to wipe off his hands prior to an inspection, he may be subject to immediate ejection. That's huge. They're like, don't conceal. Right? There's no, you can't attempt to conceal anything. Or we could, without cause, just throw you out if we perceive your attempt to conceal. I think that's pretty interesting. I like how harsh it is as a memo. I don't know that I'm going to like how harsh it is if it happens in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like,
on paper, it's like, oh, yeah. On paper, it's like, oh, that's great. But then, you get into the game, like, nah, it's pretty. Because, like, the thing that's funny. The thing that's funny is that, like, I can't even remember the guy's name anymore. I blocked him out of my mind. The Mariners pitcher who was, like, the first one to get busted for it, and they locked away his bag or his glove in an evidence bag, and then ejected him, and I remember like going to
for
bat.
PEDs.
I remember going to bat and be like, man, it was sunscreen like everywhere, blah blah whatever. That's like then the dude gets busted for PEDs. I'm like, kick him out. Don't let him come back. We don't need him.
Get out of here. Go play in Taiwan. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's get into steroids. So Major League Baseball fully suspended all testing on performance enhancing drugs during the lockout. They were not allowed to interact with the players at all. We covered that in previous episodes. But what was interesting is that the New York Times issued a report, an article that did a ton of investigative reporting. I really enjoyed it. Because the low dose creams and oils could remain undetected. So if you do a heavier dose, you do larger, like these bigger chemicals that are going to stay in your system longer, they would remain detectable even now. So let's say a guy knew there would be a 30-day, 60-day lockout at least. I don't think anybody saw a 90-day lockout happening. But if they saw, like, I know it's going to be 30 to 60 days, I'm going to inject this, it's going to be heavy, yada, yada, whatever, right? Those heavy doses would still be detectable in spring training right now, right? But oils and creams would not be. They are almost all traces of them are almost all the way gone within very short amount of time. But what was interesting is that the New York Times reported that the benefits of those, even after detection, would be months worth. Could be up to 4 months, depending on how it was used. Just for cream.
Yeah. And that's really interesting, especially since, like, I mean, what you're doing with it is you're basically using a ton, right?
Yeah.
Because if you use a little bit, it's used to, like, level out your testosterone levels. Like, having worked in a pharmacy, there were times where I was like, those things were flying off the shelf. I was grabbing them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, sometimes 10 times a day, and we could barely keep up with it.
Wow.
And I actually specifically asked a pharmacist, like, so does this stuff, like, work really well? He's like, yeah. He's like, it'll make you feel like you're 16 again. If you're 35, 40 years old, he's like, you'll feel great. He's like,
wow.
And if you're an athlete, put some extra on there, you're good to go. Like, it's a big deal. So,
and this is like hormone cream. Is that what we're talking about
here? Yeah. So it's since testosterone is we don't get into the science, but basically it has to go in through like an oil or some kind of method to be absorbed into your skin, or it has to be an injection.
Right.
I like the ways that those are done. And so these were mostly like a gel. What we were primarily doing, they come like a little packet, squeeze a packet so that it's dosed, so you're not using too much.
That's cool.
But they also have like a meter dose like pump where you could like pump it on your hand, rub it, put it on your arm or whatever. And yeah, they said it's like basically the miracle drug. And if you use too much, then you'll feel it for sure.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Yep.
And undetectable after a short amount of time, which I thought.
And I could see that too. Because you're using those low doses, you use them every day. It's not like you're going to overdose on it. So it's not going to stay in your system for too long. But that's one thing that's really interesting is you mentioning this, and then seeing that Vlad Guerrero Jr. lost. Did they say 30 pounds?
It was around 30 pounds.
About 30 pounds in a month.
Yeah.
So let me tell you the other thing is a friend of a friend of a friend who decided that he wanted to take steroids to be a better slow pitch softball player. This is a real thing, Brig. This is a real thing.
What? Better slow pitch softball player.
Better slow pitch softball player. And he said, if you're on that stuff, he's like, if you're on the juice, he's like, it doesn't take anything to cut weight. You're cutting fat, sitting watching TV.
Really?
So I'm not saying.
Interesting.
But
no, this is just what
it's interesting.
Some of the compelling
right?
arguments that justify it in the minds of these players. That's the point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
That you don't even have to be in it to build muscle. That if you just want to slim down, that's your way to do it. It's an
or
easy
injury
way
recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's another reason.
That was Andy Pettit's excuse.
Yep.
All the way to the bank. So
yeah, it makes sense to me. Well, let's move on past that. The Rangers are testing this what the system they're calling PitchCom, which we brought up last week. I think it was last week. It's the wristband-based audio connected device thing that helps not only increase the pace of the game, but also detract from the other team's ability to steal your signs, where the catcher can key a fob, basically, and communicate with the pitcher with technology. So the Rangers are currently testing that in spring training right now. Chris Woodward, manager of the Rangers, says he likes it. He sees the value and the benefit in it, but he also says he has a, quote, vested interest in that after he was a part of the LA staff in 2017 when they lost the World Series to a team who was there and, found to have been cheating. So, the catching instructors is a little bit less biased of an opinion. Catching instructor Bobby Wilson says that he really likes it. Even though he says he's a traditionalist like me, he says this is a great thing. I love what I'm seeing here. This is a good idea. I thought that was more interesting than even Chris Woodward's opinion.
It is. And honestly, you know what though, Brig? I feel like it was only a matter of time before this happened. I don't think we needed a sign stealing scandal for this to eventually come into play anyway.
I think you're right.
Before there were signals, it was like they would yell, right? They would say hit and run, steal, bunt, whatever. But then the signals actually came from deaf players, like deaf teams. That's why the signals came into being. Now everybody's using them because now they don't know what we're doing. So I feel like it only makes sense to implement more technology, more ways to convey the message without the other team being able to see it, because it all makes sense to me, and I think it's awesome. I think it'll be really cool.
I do too, but I like that it will speed up the game. That's the most compelling argument for me, is that it will speed up the game. Because I'm a traditionalist as well, and being able to show the signs down is, I think, part of the game. We're going to lose that, and so I don't know. All the pop culture references from ever before are gone now.
It's true.
The end.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. Like all the Bull Durham jokes. The deuce. I want to throw the deuce.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to make any sense.
And I wonder how many companies are going to have to redirect product because the sticky fluorescent things that the catchers put on their fingers,
the nail polish things.
Yeah, the nail polish stuff like that. They're gonna have to repurpose some product because that's gonna go by the wayside. But you might also need to have that ready to go in case the system fails.
Okay,
I don't know.
It will. That's the first rule of technology, right?
Yeah, it's gonna fail at some point.
All right. So Andrew Miller is retiring. He announces retirement. First of all, did you see this coming? I mean, he played 16 years in the league.
No, but it makes sense.
That's exactly how I felt. I was like, I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. I saw a lot of the reaction. I was like, I must be missing something here.
Huge, right?
Sure, but it's kind of like, and it might be because I don't watch the NL Central. Sure, have something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's really funny that you bring that up. That's exactly how I felt. I was like,
it was almost a borderline. Who?
The same Andrew Miller. Are we talking about the same Andrew Miller? He still plays baseball? That's how I felt. I don't know. I feel really bad saying that. But so the implied question, and the one I keep seeing rolling around, is he a Hall of Famer? Does he have a Hall of Fame career?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't even know why the question's being posed. I mean,
that's the question you ask when somebody retires.
I know. Yeah, that's why I put it on here. But I saw three, maybe four really amazing seasons, whereas WAR went under one or under two for those couple of years, and it was incredible. But the rest of his line is just he's a 4.03 ERA career, and it's okay. Let's move on past Andrew Miller. Let's talk franchise management. So it's one of our favorite topics, and especially as it relates to tanking. Okay. Now, I was reading a terrific article by MLB.com. David Adler wrote the article, and he quoted Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs, who does analysis for them. Get ready for this, Brad.
Okay.
Put your nerd hat on for a minute, okay? Position player lineups. My man, let's talk position player lineups, okay? So all franchise-wide, all 30 franchises, sort their position players' collective WAR. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now let's take all of the 30 franchises and talk about when they were last in their 1/3 or lower league-wide. So if you take all position players, collectively, our lineup is better than, or is worse than 2/3 of the league.
Okay.
As sorted by WAR, collectively, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2021, there were 10 teams that fell in the lower third. That was the last time that franchise came in the lowest 1/3 league wide. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, because when you think about it, it's like, yeah, there has to be a bottom third, right? But it's collectively, right. It's all of their position players are in the bottom third. And I have something for you when you're done. Go ahead and finish.
Okay. Sorted by WAR, right? So 10 teams have earned that honor in 2021, and you think that's intuitive, but it's not, because the last time it happened to 4 other teams was in 2020, right? So there are 4 teams in 2020 where 2020 was the last time their entire position player staff collectively ranked in the lowest 1/3. In 2019, there were 3 teams that was as far back as 2019. 2 teams, the last time they fit in the lower third was 2018. 4 teams, the oldest was 2016. Okay, now get ready for this. There's one team in Major League Baseball that has a position player lineup whose collective WAR has not been in the lowest 1/3 of Major League Baseball since 1988. One franchise has never finished, has never been graded this way, right? Their lineup, their opening day position player lineup, has not been in the lower 1/3 since 1988.
I'm going to guess the Yankees. Does it say?
It does say. The Yankees come in, my friend, in, hold on, come on, freaking thing. 2016 was the last time the Yankees lineup ended up that low. Go ahead, try again.
Okay. I don't think it's the Dodgers.
The Dodgers, last time they were that low was 2012.
Okay. Not the Cardinals.
It's the Cardinals.
Really?
The last time the Cardinals had their position players lineup collected by WAR was 1988. The last time they were in the lower 1/3.
Wow.
One team. That's
crazy.
33 seasons. 33 seasons without a combined WAR in their lineup in the lowest 1/3 of the league.
That's crazy. So here's an interesting thing about this though, is that I am certain the Mariners were in the bottom third in 2021. Like, having gone through and looked at their collective WAR,
they are.
But they missed the playoffs by 1 game.
Right.
That's weird.
It's weird.
It's really weird that you can have a bunch of guys who individually stats say they stink. But collectively, they're literally playing Moneyball.
That's exactly
what they were doing.
Yes.
So that's hard to measure a team and its desire to win.
It is by its collective, quote, impact on the game, right? Because this is an attempt to measure raw talent, raw capability.
Yeah, because it's so funny, because I remember looking back, like I said, at the Mariners from last year and being like, man, they stunk at that position. But then at the same time, it's like there was a lot of production coming from there. And I think part of it was that one thing that's funny is that specifically looking at third base, Kyle Seager spent, I think he played 140 some odd games at third base. But when they had to have somebody fill in for him, like I think Dylan Moore filled in for him, and he had a WAR of like 0.9. And then you have like Donovan Walton go play third base for him, and his WAR is like negative 1.6.
Right.
Something like that. So those guys really drag it down when they come in and fill in, because I don't know that it's weighted.
I don't think it's weighted. From what I saw, I don't think it's weighted. I just think that anyway. So the couple of questions that came immediately out of this was: is this an evidence of tanking? If we have 10 teams where the last time their collective WAR was in the bottom 1/3 was last year, all of franchise history. And there's a team there's one outlier who's 33 years ago was the last time they were collectively bad by talent pool.
And it's fascinating. I feel like it's one of those things where it's how they choose to put the teams together.
That's right. It has nothing to do with money.
Right. You look at the Cardinals, and they are contending every single year, but they don't pay anybody. They traded for Mark McGwire in the 90s, but that was like it. They didn't pay Albert Pujols, which turned out to be a smart move on their part.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. But seeing this actually made me think of a tweet that I saw and shared with you this week. I think a lot of us saw it because Jock Peterson responded to it and was spitting hot fire about it.
Yeah, he was.
It came out. There was something that came out and said the bottom 3 teams with for payroll in Major League Baseball were the Guardians at 3.6 million. Sorry, 35.6 million. 3.6 would be pretty bad.
Oh wow! Yeah, I don't think that's
Pirates
legal. Actually, it is.
There's no floor. Yes, okay. The Pirates at 35 million and the Orioles at about 30 million. And he's saying, he's like, I feel bad for these fan bases because that's embarrassing. And it really is. It really is embarrassing. And this is something that Rachel Luba, the agent, pointed out this week. She said, and I quote, all 30 teams, small markets included, are guaranteed at least $100 million annually from TV contracts alone. Now, I'm not saying you have to take that whole $100 million and put it towards payroll because you've got to pay other people, right?
There's a lot of other people, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a whole lot of other people. But at the same time, you're getting revenue from other places as well to help with that, right? Also, you're filthy stinking rich and should be able to pay people. And, like we said, I'm not one to tell people how to spend their money, but you also make a commitment when you buy a Major League Baseball team.
To the fan base, if nothing else. Yep.
Yes. But here are the teams with payroll this year under $100 million. Cincinnati, Seattle, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Arizona, Miami, Oakland, and then the other 3 teams that we mentioned, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. Now, not all those teams are as egregious.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're also not paying. Like Cincinnati had a fire sale.
Yeah.
They traded a bunch of guys, and they're not paying anybody now, hardly. The Mariners, one of the things that's funny is that like they tried to go out and get free agents, but nobody came. But then at the same time, they're kind of holding on to money, waiting to pay their core.
Yeah,
because they're going to have to extend some guys. They're going to have to pay some guys. So as a Mariners fan, I'm okay with it. I'm really okay with it. So there's that. But then there's like Tampa Bay, perennially does not pay anybody. Arizona does not pay anybody. They just extended Ketel Marte today.
First time ever they did a thing.
But it wasn't that much money.
I know.
It's 5 years, $75 million. I get it. He hasn't stayed healthy since he's been in Arizona, but he's an all-star.
And aren't there opt-outs and stuff? Didn't I see?
I would assume so. I didn't see the
all
details.
All kinds of justification for maybe we don't like you anymore.
Yeah. But this is the thing with Marte, though, is that he doesn't put butts in seats.
No. And he should, because he's exciting when he's healthy.
He's very exciting. Yes. Exactly right, and that's a problem. They need somebody by his side who puts butts in seats, but nobody else on that team does.
Yeah,
and I get it. I mean, it's a big topic of discussion around here. You go see the Diamondbacks to see the other team.
When I came into town, we went and saw the Cubs.
I went and saw the Mariners twice in one weekend.
Yep,
but I'd do that anywhere. So
yeah, you would. It's just interesting that half of the teams you listed, according to. Was that Luba? the under 100 million, are on my list of the 10 teams that had the lowest 1/3 last season ever, or the last time in franchise history. Yep.
Wow.
I don't know. I just think there's some connective dots here that I need to pay an analyst to come and do for us. Okay, so rule changes. Let's shift gears. We keep talking about rule changes because rule changes keep getting talked about, and we're really sorry, but they're still not set in stone. This week, the owners are supposed to vote on the following rules. They only need a simple majority vote to make this take place. It's supposed to take place this week. First one, the Otani Rule, which is it states that starting pitchers can remain as a designated hitter after they leave the mound.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because that's like the opposite of the double hook.
It is
the complete opposite of the double hook,
and it's just for one guy because he's awesome.
Yep.
The ghost runner, extra innings runner on second, that is being voted on this week by the owners, and expanded rosters. So there's a proposal that the teams will maintain 28-man rosters until May 2nd, which is supposed to help curb any issues from like rushing to spring training, have a shortened spring training.
It's for the pitchers. It's all about pitchers.
Of course it is. Yeah. But that's what it's for, right? So they're going to be voting on that this week. We'll keep you up to date as they do. Couple more things before we take a quick break. Donnie Baseball. Donnie Baseball is the name of a new documentary.
And it's the documentary you didn't know you need, but you do. It's going to be awesome.
And Brad hates the Yankees. So, like, it's going to be awesome.
I'll give you this. I have always liked Donnie Baseball.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
He's like baseball's spirit animal is what he is.
So he's Donnie Baseball.
If you just like baseball, you're going to dig this. And there are some great interviews. You can get on YouTube and look up the trailer. They've already released the trailer. There are some great interviews by some great ball players and some people that you wouldn't expect to be on there saying all these wonderful, heartwarming things about Donnie Baseball. So we're really, really excited about that. Check it out April 3rd. Okay, moving on. The first female ever drafted onto a team to play baseball happened.
Professional baseball in America.
Yes, in America happened this week. Alexis Hopkins is drafted in the 8th round overall by the Kentucky Wild Health Genomes. Eighth pick. I'm sorry.
That's different.
It is Atlantic League. That's the Atlantic League because they are no longer affiliated with Major League Baseball. They're part of the group that got the axe. So I don't think they're the Legends anymore. Brad and I are looking into it, trying to figure out just exactly what's happening.
We might be doing some on-site investigation this year. We'll let you know.
But they're in Lexington, and maybe they'll share a stadium with the Legends. We don't know. They're conflicting reports. We're going to figure out what's going on. But the Kentucky Wild Health Genomes is the team that drafted her. Very excited. She's expected to be a bullpen catcher for now, and we'll keep updates and see what happens. Moving on. Freddie Freeman apologized to the owner of the Braves.
I was going to give you a lot of credit for getting Dan Szymborski's name right on your first try, and then I saw on our lineup here what you did with the Braves owner's name. And
you can't even say it.
I think it's
Anthopoulos.
I think that like canceled it out.
Yeah. I spelled ANTHO.
Jibber jabber.
Who cares? He apologized to the owner of the Atlanta Braves, and I don't understand why. I don't think he did anything wrong, and Brad seems to have justification for that.
So,
what, Brad?
I feel like the Braves did the best thing for them, right? As far as like, we're going to give you this many years, this much money. They wouldn't go more than 5 years, and he wanted a 6th year. And I think that was really the thing, because when it came down to it, he signed for $1 million more every year than what was offered by Atlanta. It definitely wasn't about the money. It was about the 6th year. And I can see him being like, I loved being there. I really loved playing for the team, but I've got to do what's best for me, what's best for my family. I'm sorry that it didn't work out. I could see that.
Sure.
You know, it's no disrespect to you, but I've got to look out for my family. I can see, it makes sense to me why he would apologize and why he feels like he might need to, because he's like the nicest guy in baseball, or one of them.
That's true.
You know,
since Donnie Baseball. Yeah.
So
he did share a farewell letter to the fan base, and I thought a couple of really interesting elements of that. First, he said he will return to play the Braves in June when the Dodgers are in town in Atlanta. And that's where they will present him with his World Series ring, which is very, very exciting. There was question as to whether or not they would present it to him, off-site somewhere. Was it going to be on the field or what? Because they do a big celebration every year with the home team. So he's not on the home team anymore. So that'll be really interesting. So they're going to give him his ring in June. And I thought the best part was at the very end of his letter, he says, "I'll see you in June and in October."
Oh, dang.
Yeah. It was a ... and in October. And I was like, yes,
my man.
Yes. It was just enough. I loved it. It was sportsmanship. It was classy. It was everything you want.
Here's this for you, Brig. I have one thing. So the big thing these days in sports, especially in the NBA, is like the thank you video that the team does, like the tribute video.
Yes.
Do the Braves do one of those for Freddie Freeman in June?
If not sooner. Yep.
Yeah. You think he'll get one when he goes back?
Yes.
Okay.
How could he not? How could he
I
not?
wasn't sure if maybe they would wait until like his farewell tour.
No.
At the end of his career.
No, nothing is guaranteed, Brad.
It's true.
You do it.
It's true. If
knock it out.
You gotta do it now. Yeah. You're right.
Last thing we have to talk about. The Dodgers. Dave Roberts. It's not on the lineup because I forgot. He guaranteed a World Series victory in LA.
That's the headline. He did. I don't think he did. I don't think he did, because I heard it live. I was listening to the interview.
I know.
And the way the question was, Dan Patrick said, the Dodgers win the World Series if. And Robert said, if there's a complete season and there's a postseason. And it was kind of like, well, wait a minute, there might not be. He goes, no, like if we play the World Series, we're going to win it.
Right.
And Dan Patrick was kind of like, oh, really? And he goes, well, I mean, as long as our starting staff stays healthy. It's like, yeah, that's what you want to hear from everybody. I mean, that's the answer. You don't want to be like, if all the cards fall into place and all the stars align and the planets are where they need to be, when it comes time to play postseason baseball, we'll win it. No, you want your manager to be like, if we play it, we're going to win it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But what's funny is the uproar.
Oh, so much uproar. So much. And it's ridiculous. It's like, come on.
It's so fun.
What
it's
do you
not
expect
ridiculous
him to say?
It's awesome. It's so, and you know what? I love that they twisted his words. I do. I love that they're like, do you know what Dave Roberts said? They said he's going to win. We're guaranteed to win the World Series. Guaranteed it. He put his hat.
He's doing
in the
the
ring.
Moses Malone faux.
Yeah,
3 faux.
And you know what? Part of me, this is the best part about sports, where the fact and the fiction kind of like mingle, and there's this fight that happens. It's the best, because I need a manager who's like, it's ours. Take it from me. I love that. So part of me wishes he just said it. Take it from me. Go ahead. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Because we need that fight and fire in baseball. Anyway, baseball family, don't forget, you can jump on Patreon if you like what we're doing, if you love what we got going on here, if it's for you, for less than one of my bougie cups of coffee every month, Brad says. You can support the show. You go to Patreon, search for Baseball Together. We have a $5, a $10, and a $15 tier. We're really excited to continue to bring you this content. We love doing this. We love the support we get from you. And now there's another way to support us. And if you have the means and you're interested, that's another way you can do it. And we would really appreciate it. So with that, Baseball family, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our Giants, not the Mets. They're both orange. Our Giants, Mount Rushmore.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back with me. Root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Shop kids' baseball shirts at 9pluss.com.
Welcome back, baseball family. As Brig mentioned earlier, we are actually talking about the San Francisco Giants and their Mount Rushmore nominees. Now, before we get into that, we have some information to present to you, the listener and viewer, depending on where you're taking in the podcast, about the San Francisco Giants. I'm going to start, if that's okay with you, Brig.
Yeah, I think you should.
Okay, I like to find out where the team names came from. I think that most of the time they're really interesting. So I thought that I would go with that. So the San Francisco Giants, as we know, started out in New York as the New York Gothams. But after a rousing victory in 1885, the team's manager referred to his players as my Giants. The team quickly changed from Gothams to the Giants and kept the name when they moved out to San Francisco from New York in 1957.
Whoa!
I think it's funny that all it takes is somebody saying something that early on in the team's history to change it over, right?
The Gothams?
Yeah, the New York Gothams. That is a real thing.
Whoa.
Crazy.
And then one little riff off. That's crazy. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's according to teamnameorigin.com. Brig, why don't you give us a breakdown of the history of the Gothams and the Giants?
I shall, sir. They have an official record. Well, first of all, they have been around forever. Forever.
Yes.
139 seasons. They've been playing professional baseball as a franchise, as an organization, since 1883. It's insanity. I love it. I love that about them. Okay. Record in that almost 140 years. Okay. The record is 11,301 to 9,773 games. That puts them at a 536 win-loss percentage. They have had 27 playoff appearances, 23 pennants, 8 world championships. They have retired 10 of their organic team numbers, 11 if you include Jackie Robinson, which we do. They also have 4 retired names, one of which is a player, one's a manager, 2 are broadcasters. Those names are, I am not going to tell you, because what if Brad and I pick one of them? Ha! What do you think about that? Almost blew it, and I didn't. Okay, Brad.
So real quick, something that's interesting. So on Baseball Together, I wish we had this on Baseball Together. On baseballreference.com, they have a breakdown of when they won their World Series. Yes. And the San Francisco Giants won all 3 of their World Series that they own last decade.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. Yes, the Giants in New York won 5.
Yeah.
But that's insane to me. Somebody who, like, my dad grew up a Giants fan because his dad's from the Bay Area, so that's who he grew up watching before the Mariners became a thing.
Yeah.
And so somebody who grew up in a house where, like I said, my dad is a huge Giants fan. I would have thought, like, with how much he loved them, that they were like perennial winners and a really great franchise. But I guess
they're a great franchise.
Yeah, great franchise, rich history, but
lots of pennants, but 8 world championships, and they only have won 3 since 1957.
Yeah,
it's interesting because you're right; they are storied, and people love them.
They're very popular, even like outside of San Francisco. You find a lot of Giants fans all over the place.
Yeah, that's right. So Brad and I, for those of you who might be new to the show, we go through and we suggest to you and to one another whom we believe you cannot tell the story of the franchise without. There are 4 names that cannot be left off the history books we kind of fight over it a little bit sometimes. But more often than not, what's interesting is that we overlap. Brad and I do not share details of our discovery process or our research methods before we go into this. And I don't know who he's picked. He doesn't know whom I've picked. And we are going to get into it now. We have overlapped every single time at least once leading up to this. So that's not a jinx moment, but it might be. We'll see what happens.
We say it every time. We still overlap.
I know.
I don't think it's going to jinx anything. And I'm certain we're going to overlap on at least one.
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
So,
all right, Brad, why don't you go first? Give me your first player that you think belongs on their Mount Rushmore.
Okay, I'm just going to get this out of the way. This is a controversial player, and I think me saying that, you know exactly who it is.
No!
Okay. I don't feel like you can leave Barry Bonds off of the Mount Rushmore. You can't. Because of his impact on the game, the way that, like, I shouldn't say the way that he played it, but he still had to hit the ball, Brig. And this is the thing, is everybody says that, a lot of people have said that Barry Bonds is one of the best hitters to ever play the game. Flat out. And he was playing in the same league at the same time as Tony Gwynn for a while.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So the reason he was such a good hitter is because his eyes were so good, he could let the ball travel deeper, and his hands were so quick that he could still get around on it.
Yeah.
You know, that somebody who's that great of a hitter, and yes, I understand. I'm well aware of the accusations of steroids and all the evidence that points to it as well. I am well aware, and I have my disdain for steroids as well. But a guy who was feared so much in his career that even in Pittsburgh at 27 years old, he led the league in intentional walks with 32. Yep. For the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, he led the league in intentional walks. And then in 2002 until 2004, he also led the league in intentional walks with 120 in 2004. And then his last 2 years in the league, 06, 07, he led the league in intentional walks again. Pitchers feared the man. They would rather walk in a run with Barry Bonds at the plate than pitch to him.
And they did.
I mean, we see the clip on social media all the time.
That happens. Yeah. Right.
And then you look, like, if you look at his Baseball Reference profile, there are so many bolded numbers outside of the home run totals. Like, you forget, you can throw out of the home run totals. I don't care. That's fine. If he hit 2 home runs a year during his career, but he still put up a batting average of, or an on-base percentage of 410, 456, 458, that's 3 years in a row. Those are all real. I'm still going to put this guy on Mount Rushmore because he wasn't just hitting home runs. He was getting on base.
Yeah.
And that's unreal to me. Somebody was that good of a hitter. And then, yes, steroids most likely came into play, and he started crushing it, hitting balls into Mccovey Cove left and right. But even if he was peppering the wall, I'd take the guy on my team, man. Absolutely. 100% of the time.
Okay, fine.
Okay, who you got?
All right, I'm going to go with
make room for that big head. Make extra room for the big head, too. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go with a guy, my number one pick, who was born in Riverside, California, actually. So I like that little detail. He's an 8-time Gold Glover, which I think is important given the rest of my information. 12-time Silver Slugger, we saw that coming. 7 times MVP. 7 times. 14-time All-Star. Most of them were sequential, save one during a string of those, I should say. There was only 1 year he wasn't. Home Run Derby champion, 2 times batting title, 3 times Major League Player of the Year. Career WAR 162.7. Barry Bonds. You just can't argue with it. I know. I do not want him in the Hall of Fame. He is a phenomenal baseball player.
Flat out
phenomenal. And he spent 15 of his 22 seasons in Major League Baseball playing in San Francisco. So you cannot tell the story of the San Francisco Giants without Barry Bonds. You simply can't. You shouldn't even try. And I think that it's just astonishing. And I love that you cited his OBP in 91, 92, and 93, where he led the league 410, 456, 458. That's 2 seasons in Pittsburgh, 1 season in San Francisco. I think that right there does as much for me to consider him before his performance-enhancing stuff than anything else, which is what you were saying. So, yes, while I am a curmudgeon about this, I am a stick in the proverbial mud about Barry Bonds. I do not believe that the history of the franchise can be told without Barry Bonds.
Well, and one thing that's crazy is I can't remember if Jonathan said this on our draft episode a couple of weeks ago, or if it was just in conversation, whatever. But he truly believes that Barry Bonds leaving the Pirates destroyed the franchise.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been the same since then. Like, they had Andrew McCutchen, they made the playoffs, but
Josh Bell, Barry Bonds
was the keystone.
Yeah.
Since then.
Let me go back and make this very clear. He has an 8-time Gold Glove winner. You can't. That has nothing to do with hitting home runs. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. He's a great baseball player.
Flat out.
He's more
100%.
well-rounded than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
The end. Okay, Brad. Since we overlapped, go with your number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is actually was my dad's favorite player.
Oh.
Yeah. I've been wanting to get him a jersey for years of this player. This is a guy who was born in Westfield, Alabama. Hall of Famer, of course. 2-time MVP, won Rookie of the Year, was part of the 1954 World Series team. And it's the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays.
He's my number 2 as well.
This is the one I assumed as, like, at the very least, we're going to
has to be Willie Mays. Yes, and I know you didn't expect me to pick Barry Bonds, so
I didn't. No.
Yeah, Willie Mays. Oh, the guy is phenomenal. Literally, 21 years in San Francisco. 21 years. He has a career WAR of 156.1. Career batting average is 301. Home runs 660 before steroids. You could even spell them.
So this is one thing that I think is crazy. Is like most guys in the time in 1953, he didn't play. He missed a season because of military service, and then he comes back in 1954. Is an all-star. Obviously, most of the guys came back then, but he won the MVP and hit 345.
Yeah, he did.
That's legit. I don't care who you are.
That is legit.
And hit 41 home runs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like Willie Mays is one of those guys that's like, I don't feel like we have to justify him. If you say the name, most people I feel like are going to agree that he goes up on Mount Rushmore.
You can't do it with that. And the catch the guy has a play named, like, it's his play that's called the
basket catch. Yeah.
It's the most famous catch in the outfield, like, of all time. So if you haven't seen the catch, you have to go see the video of Willie Mays makes the catch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I think of highlight reel catches in Major League Baseball, obviously I think of the Ken Griffey Jr. Spider-Man catch.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then I think of the Willie Mays basket catch over the shoulder.
Yep.
Like those are the two big ones. There's obviously some, like the Jim Edmonds one, whatever. That's fine. You can have that if you want it. But I don't need it because others.
You know what the best part about the Willie Mays catch is? I just looked this up. I wanted to make sure I was right. It's in Game 1 of the World Series in 1954. Okay, the Cleveland Indians had runners on first and second. I'm quoting now from Sports Illustrated. Runners on first and second against the New York Giants. Vic Wertz hits a 425-foot shot to center field. And by the way, if you see the video, there's still room after 425 feet.
Like, the wall.
That's a long ways out there. And he sprinted and then over the shoulder grabbed it. Now, the best part about that is the game is tied 2-2. That's clutch. That's impact. Love it. You can't get enough.
That's awesome.
2-2 in a World Series game. I'm just glad it's on video.
Me too, because it's super grainy. Like they very well
is.
could have just been like, "Nah, we're not broadcasting these games yet."
Yeah, but you can. It's so
it's
clear.
the olden days. It's the olden days. We're not broadcasting baseball yet. I think that's how that conversation would go.
That's right.
We live life in black and white. See. I think that was
so
something that was said. That's true. But let's
Baseball
go ahead.
Family,
Let's take a quick break.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we're going to come back and we'll overlap some more. It'll be great.
The Not Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Not Another Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back, baseball family. We are discussing the San Francisco Giants, and we're very excited about it. Brad has invited me to broadcast my number 3 pick first, and I had told him no, but he wouldn't stand for it. So I'm going to go now, and I'm going to tell you about this guy that I think this might be a controversial pick as well, actually, but I don't care because I get to do whatever I want. I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about a guy who has won the MVP. He's a 7-time All-Star, and he has been part of all 3 World Series championships that they have had since moving to San Francisco. He has a career WAR of 44.9. There are projections for his 2022 season, which we will not see very likely. 12 years in the league. He opted out during the 2020 season. I'm talking about Buster Posey.
Mm-hmm.
He won Rookie of the Year. That's a huge deal, by the way, in case you're new to baseball or sports at all.
He turned 35 today, by the way.
That's today?
Today's the day. March 27th. Baseball Reference says specifically on his profile, look at that. It says happy birthday.
It really does. That's awesome. He is a Gold Glove. He's got a batting title. He's a 5-time Silver Slugger. The guy's just amazing. I mean, he's a great ball player. And he's an enormous part of the success that they've had. I mean, like we talked about, they've only won 3 world championships since 1957. He's been there for all of them. And not just there, but integral to all of them. So I don't think you can talk about them without Buster Posey.
Now, I love me some Buster Posey. I think we've established this on the show.
Sure.
And he was like right away, I was like, number 1, Willie Mays.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Buster Posey. But I'm going to say he ended up Brig as my runner-up.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because there were a couple guys who I was kind of teetering with, and I was like, the only way I can get them both in is if I take out Buster Posey. I think if he had a longer career, because he did retire after the 2021 season.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I think if he had played for 3 more years and we had this conversation in 4, then I think at that point he would be a no-brainer. Absolutely. Okay. But you can't fault a guy for going out on his own terms.
And on top. And I mean, I still
winning
can't
his team last year.
That's right.
I can't more games than anybody last year.
I just love it. And and last year he was an all-star. He won a Silver Slugger. The guy played 113 games, and he went, you know what? I'm done. Batting average 304. That's great for your.
That's a good one to end on.
Your age 34 season. Your last season in the league, you ended on a 304 batting average. Yeah, his lifetime batting average is 302. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is just a killer ball player.
100%. Absolutely. I wonder if maybe that was something he took into consideration. He's like, this is where my stuff is right now, so this is a good time to end it. I don't know. I think it's a solid pick.
I agree.
Absolutely. 100%. I dig it. So for my next pick, I'm going to go with a guy who obviously a Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star, won an ERA title, so makes him a pitcher naturally.
Yeah. Okay.
Although isn't naturally like the second baseman? No, he's the first baseman. No, he's the catcher.
No, naturally's.
I don't know. I'm lost. I know he's not the first baseman.
Who's on first, Brad?
Yeah, who's on first? I don't know why I did that. Anyway, while you look that up, Brig, I'm going to talk more about this pitcher.
Yeah.
He spent 14 years with the Giants. 14 of them, all in San Francisco, mind you. In 63, he led the league in innings pitched, also with 25 wins. And that same year, he faced 1,270 batters, and that was good enough for the most in major leagues or the National League. This guy is Juan Marichal.
Oh, yeah.
That's a name that, to me, anytime anybody talks about the Giants, it's like, well, you can't forget Juan Marichal. He's a name that comes up every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you've got Willie Mays and Barry Bonds, who are like the top tier upper echelon, but I feel like anytime that there's a conversation about the Giants' greats, Juan Marichal's name comes up every single time. And a guy who, like, he doesn't have a whole lot of the accolades, right? Like, he doesn't have a Cy Young, but he's a 10-time All-Star. He was the All-Star Game MVP. But like, this is one thing that's really interesting to me, is that if you look, when you're looking at his Baseball Reference stat sheet, anytime there's something that's bolded, it means that they led the league in that specific statistic.
For that year.
And it's peppered with bolded numbers. Like, complete games, he led the league in 64 and again in 68. He led the league with shutouts in 65 and again in 69. Led the league with the ERA title and out of a 2.10 in 69. And it's not just that he had like one great year and then it cut off. It's that the first time that he led the league in innings pitched was in 63, but then he continued to pitch on. Like, his career ended in 75 and he was with the Giants until 73. That he continued to be great. And I mean, sustained success is a big deal to me because it's so hard to do. Not just in professional sports, but in professional baseball, especially, to me. And as a pitcher, like, that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So I got to put Juan Marichal on my Mount Rushmore.
Nice.
Thanks. Who else you got for us?
That's a good one. How many do I have left? 2 slots, right?
One,
no,
because you did
one and a runner-up. That's right.
Mays, Bonds, Posey,
and Buster.
You got one more.
Okay, so I have a couple that are that I was toying between. Therefore, I have a runner-up. But I'm going to give you my number one first, and then I'll deal you my runner-up. Okay.
Okay.
The last guy I think belongs on the Mount Rushmore for the San Francisco Giants. Never played in San Francisco. Played for the New York Giants the whole time, and the whole time consists of 22 seasons in the same franchise. I love that. I'm all about that kind of stuff, and that happened a lot back in the years between 1926 and 1947 when this guy was on the roster. He was an all-star 12 times, all of them consecutive, every one of them. From his age 25 season in 1934 all the way to his age 35 season in 1944. This guy was in all-star games. As part of the 1933 World Series, he's in the Hall of Fame. He played right field and third base. I have Mel Ott.
I was going to ask if I could guess, but I was clearing my throat, so I didn't.
Oh. Yeah, Mel Ott.
That's a solid pick.
Thank you. Dig this. Ready? Career WAR 110.9. Okay. Career batting average at 304. OBP 414. Slugging 533. OPS 947. The guy is just a machine. And talk about a stat page that is littered with bolded numbers. This is exactly what you have here. Even to the point of leading the league in games one year in 1932, led with 154 of them. But he led the league in OBPs, led the league in base on balls. He's led the league in RBIs. He led the league in home runs in 1932, 34, 36, 37, 38, and 42. He led the leagues in home runs every one of those years. And that's incredible if you're talking about the 30s. And we all know what happened in the 30s. So, long story short, dude's amazing. Cannot tell the story of the franchise without him. And partially in order to not forget the past.
Yeah, it is important to remember the New York Giants. Like, that's one thing that I think happens sometimes, is that when teams relocate, that sometimes that previous location is forgotten. Like, I think that the one big example of that to me, and it really bugs me, is Oklahoma City Thunder. Is they act like they're an expansion team, at least from what I've seen. They discount the Seattle Supersonics history, and it really bugs me and rubs me the wrong way. And I don't know if it's because the Seattle Supersonics, like, the name is stuck in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Like that maybe they can't do that, but they act like it's always been them. You know?
Yeah.
That's one thing that there's a lot of things about that franchise that rubs me the wrong way, and that's one of them. And I love that the San Francisco Giants, there's a continuation from the New York Giants. That Mel Ott feels as much like a Giant as Willie Mays and Barry Bonds and Buster Posey do.
Yeah.
So I think that's
it's
cool.
Fantastic. And I love the history. Love it. So, 140 seasons, 139 seasons. It's like there's a huge history.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, let me just give you another instant. No, because you have another name. Gosh dang it.
No, okay. Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
Well, what if you pick this person?
I don't think I will.
Are you sure?
Yep. If I do, then it's a perfect segue. Go ahead.
Okay. So another pitcher. Is your guy a pitcher?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. Hall of Fame pitcher, career WAR 106.5, played for the New York Giants for 17 seasons. Christy Mathewson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Christy Mathewson's literally phenomenal. His career ERA is 2.13. He's got one of the best pitchers in all of history of baseball. Mm-hmm. And he is part of this franchise, right?
Yeah.
So
I love
I just love stuff like that. Love it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, my last guy was born in Mobile, Alabama. He's a Hall of Famer. He won the Rookie of the Year, an MVP, 6-time All-Star. But this is the big thing, is I think that you can't not have the guy. I mean, I know you've got a landmark named after him. I guess I should say a watermark named after him.
Yes.
But you gotta have Willie Mccovey.
Yes, he's my runner-up.
I love it. That's awesome.
Oh, I was gonna say, I love it.
McCovey Cove is such a big deal. Yeah. And the fact they named it after Willie Mccovey, I love every stinking bit of it. Like, every last little bit of it. Every single splashdown. I look forward. I don't know why I look forward to them hearing them say McCovey Cove.
I do too.
It's not like I was alive when he was playing. I mean, his last year was in 1980. I think it's the baseball history nerd in me. It's like, yes, Willie McCovey every time. His legacy lives on, with the splashdown.
That's exactly right.
That they didn't change the name to Bonds Cove because they very well easily could have,
Yeah.
But
anyway, you know what's actually called?
It's I looked it up. It's like China's Den or something like that.
China Bay.
China Bay. Yeah. I looked it up today because I wanted to make sure that wasn't like the official name.
Me too. I did the same thing.
But anyway,
we're both such nerds.
I know.
I love it.
So he led the league with home runs 3 times. Once in 63 with 44, then in 68 and 69 with 36 and 45 respectively. And both those years he led the league with RBIs as well.
Yeah.
He won an MVP in that 69 season, and another guy who pitchers were afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
He led the league with intentional intentional free passes, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4 times in a 5-year stretch from 69 to 73. The only year was 1972, but he only played half the season. So I'm sure the pitchers were kind of like, just pitch him the ball,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like Willie Mccovey is as much a part of Giants history as anybody else and ought to be. And I feel, and I'm not going to take anything away from you, Brig, by making him your runner-up, because he has a spot. He has a literal spot with the franchise outside of a Mount Rushmore. So it makes sense, but I got to put him there. I still got to put him on there.
I agree. And I would have had to move Buster Posey to put him on there, and I just couldn't move Buster Posey off.
And so the guy I moved Buster Posey off, like, this pains me. It was Barry Bonds. It was the one I moved Buster Posey off for.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
It's a tough decision.
Yeah, that is tough. But I think you made the right one, honestly.
Yeah.
As much as that pains me to say, I still and between the two of us, we so baseball family, tell us what you think. Do you agree with our picks? Do you not? Are we terrible at this? No, we're not terrible at it unless you want to yell at us about it. Come on the show, yell at us about it. It'd be great.
Let us know.
Let us know. You can do that by visiting baseballtogether.com, where you can leave us a comment on the YouTube channel. You can comment on whatever podcast streaming service you're using as well. But on baseballtogether.com, you can call in and leave us a voicemail and go on that tirade you're just barely containing right now. The one that would terrify the person you're carpooling with right now on your way to or from the office. Like, that's the person you need to protect by getting on and sending us a voicemail about who you think belongs on the Giants Mount Rushmore.
He's not wrong. But you can also send an email. You can jump in the mailbag. There's a link there as well. There's also a link in the description of every single episode to send an email through the mailbag. And we love to get those. Those are a ton of fun for us.
They are.
But don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review as well. Let us know what you think about the podcast. What are we doing? Are we doing a good job? Maybe not. Do you complain to the person you carpool with? Like, I don't know why I listen to these guys. They're just jokers.
These guys. I know. Anyway. I do. Anyway, don't forget to jump on the shop as well at 9plusus.com, where you can get all the merch we're wearing right now and more. And baseball family, with that, we are excited, and we will catch you next week.